Surveillance is becoming increasingly prevalent in almost all aspects of our daily lives. We have become a world in which everything we do is collected, stored, and analyzed. Many people have accepted living in a world in which it has been deemed necessary to provide a certain amount of information about us in order to do many things, such as work, attend school, shop, or use technology. But while surveillance is becoming more and more common, it is still largely invisible and often a hidden invasion of our privacy. Some aspects of surveillance are very disturbing and intrusive into our privacy, such as the fact that Google can basically pinpoint individuals based on Google searches. The silent gathering could be used harmfully, such as in the case of the Target security breach. Often, consumers do not have the ability to determine what they are comfortable with or know whether the data gathered about them will be shared with a third party or with hackers or attackers. While surveillance intends to be useful and necessary in society, it is scary to know that almost every move we make is being recorded somewhere. With the technology to survey more people more quickly, our privacy is at a greater risk. That being said, we decided to conduct a survey that would assess how people view privacy and how people's trust in social networks affects how they manage personal data.
We were able to collect responses from 85 individuals. We first asked respondents about their concern over how much of their personal information is out there on the internet. We found that about 28% said they are very much concerned, and about 57% said they are somewhat concerned. That means that about 85% of respondents carry around some worry with them about their privacy online. We then asked respondents if they have ever been personally affected by the misuse of personal data. We found that about 60% of respondents have experienced some sort of privacy breach in which a third party has had unauthorized access to their personal information. We also found that about 12% of respondents don't even have a clue if this has ever happened to them, which is clearly an issue. Even though there is a growing concern over online privacy and many people have been affected by security breaches, we found that people sometimes still aren't taking the proper measures to protect their information. For instance, we asked respondents how often they change their passwords, and we found that about 41% of respondents rarely change their passwords and about 31% never do. That means that about 3/4 of respondents keep the same passwords for years, making it much more likely for their passwords to be discovered by unwanted parties. Next, we asked respondents about their agreement with the statement, "I trust online social networks with my personal data." We found that about 41% of respondents agree with this statement, and about 59% of respondents disagree. While this shows that more people do not trust social networks, we found it interesting that as much as 41% of people still do trust them. Therefore, we decided to cross-tabulate this data with the results about how private people make their Twitters and Facebooks. We found that those respondents who said that they do trust social networks were much more likely to have a public Twitter account and to have more information about them, such as their photos and cell phone numbers, available to the public on their Facebooks. Those who reported not trusting social networks were much more likely to report having a private Twitter account and to have a very private Facebook, such as only allowing the public to see their name. Based on the results collected about how private people make their Facebooks, we found it very interesting that about 24%, which is about 1/4 of respondents, do not even know what information is shared with the public on Facebook. Because of the ongoing debate about whether or not the government should be allowed to record our communications, such as phone calls and emails, we decided to ask respondents how they felt about this issue. We found that about 45% of people believe the government should be allowed to record us without approval, and about 55% of people do not believe the government should be able to. While more people are against it, the results were close enough, which emphasizes the balance between the risks and the rewards of government surveillance. The last question we asked respondents was whether or not they agree that the government is doing enough to protect the personal data of its citizens. We found that about 70% of respondents disagree with this statement, clearly indicating that there is a need for the government to do more to protect our privacy. In conclusion, our findings indicate that there is much concern about how much information is out there about us on the internet. Yet people are still not always taking the proper measures to protect their data, such as not changing their passwords often and not making their social media accounts as private as they can be. As technology advances and the concern over privacy grows, people are quick to say that the government needs to do more to protect its citizens. However, it is also important for people to be educated on how to manage their privacy on their own and control what information is out there about them.
Digital, get down.